Morning, all. All right, I wanted to start off today talking about the All-Star game. Now, what I did a couple days ago is when they revealed the rosters, I thought, all right, I'm not going to pay any attention to who makes it or who doesn't make it. I know there's going to be some that I'm going to hear during games and all that, but I want to pick my own teams. So I sat down last night and I tried to pick up my own teams. I thought, how hard could this be? It's difficult. And no matter what I did, I was still hosing over so many players. And so I was going to make it up where I had all four teams. And then I was going to have a list under here of these are the players that have kind of been hosed by the fact that this system means I can't put everybody on there that I think belongs there. And really, it's a system where you have six forwards, three defensemen, two goaltenders per division. Now, of course, they're allowing for voting on who else gets in there, and we've talked about voting before and how flawed the system is, and it is flawed. So of course, when they're making their announcement of who's made it, we kind of have to have one from every team in your announcement, or else you're risking not every team being in it. And that's a debate we've had too, right? Like, well, you've got 32 teams. Does every single team justify having an all-star? No. And that's just accurate. No. And so are there people who are currently already named to the All-Star game that probably shouldn't be there based on this year's play? Yes. So the whole league, you've got 24 forwards, 12 defensemen, and 8 goaltenders who can make it into the All-Star game, right? If you're still using the 6-3-2. What's interesting to me is that means the goaltenders are kind of overrepresented in the way that this is done, but it doesn't matter. It's a 3-on-3 tournament. The winner, I don't think it matters how much money they give these guys either. We can't make these games important. We can't make all-star games feel special. They've tried. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was the Clarence Campbell Conference versus Prince of Wales. And as a kid, I loved it. Like, that was just awesome. And it was great to see whichever member of the Canucks was named to the All-Star game out there with all the other All-Stars, out there with Gretzky, and was like, this is awesome. And I think that's the biggest issue with the complaining that we see. And I know it's going to be a lot. And I know people are going to go, oh, it's awful. For the players, I don't know how important it is to actually go to the All-Star game. I think they're honored when they get picked. I think they're probably honored as well when fans vote them in. But wouldn't they rather have a weekend off? And I think there are likely players right now who are banged up and beat up and bruised up who would rather have a weekend off. They're not going to say that, but I would imagine that there are players who would just rather sit it out. I know that for me, with this channel, that I planned. We're going down to Disneyland during the break. I consider that kind of like Christmas for me, where I can kind of relax a little bit because it's the All Star break, and no matter how much you put into the All Star game, and I mean, I've tried. It's not a very intense game. You're not going to see hitting. You're not going to see guys going out there and giving it 110% defensively. You're going to see some creativity. You're going to see some goaltenders not stretching themselves out to ridiculous lengths to make saves because you don't want to get hurt. And that's the big thing too. It is a series of 3-on-3 games where guys just don't want to get hurt. They want to go out there, they want to have fun, they want to skate around, and they don't want to get hurt. The last thing you want to see is an injury coming out of an all-star game, a game which means very little. I've seen people talk about, well, we could make it where the conference that wins, if we had conference versus conference, gets home ice in the Stanley Cup playoffs, like in the final. That's not going to work. There's a lot of things that just, it's, and again, you're picking 44 players in total from 32 teams. And right there, that's going to be the core part of your problem because let's look at, say, the Avalanche. You could argue Rantanen, McKinnon, Makar. You could argue right now in the Central, Georgiev belongs there, right? You've also got Saros out of Nashville, but what about Yossi? You've got Duchesne could be argued there as well. There isn't a team that there aren't multiple players. Even Vancouver, as bad as their season's been, I would say Quinn Hughes has been very good on the blue line, and you've got Pettersson and Horvat up front, right? So that's 3 players for the Canucks you could make that argument with. And I think that's the problem. And then you've got players too, like Noah Hannafin in Calgary, off to a very good run. I would say if he had been named to the All-Star game, that could have been justified as well. They send Kadri. I would argue Lindholm has been more impressive to me personally than Kadri. But that's the thing, right? We're always going to have those arguments. And in the end, it is a game that's made for kids. It is a game that's for the kids. That's why I started this with, remember when I was a kid, I would get excited because I did. I thought it was a great game. I really, really enjoyed it as a kid. I did enjoy it a little bit less when some of the games were like really high scoring and ridiculous because it gets boring. And so that's the thing that I think the 3-on-3 was designed to get around is that it can get really boring when it's, again, Prince of Wales versus Clarence Campbell and the score's 10-9, 11-8. Like it can just be tedious watching this, right? So I don't think that there's a solution to this because for people who want it to matter, I don't think it's going to. If you're looking for intensity in a real NHL game, that's not going to happen either. So I really don't see a way around the reality that the National Hockey League has this exhibition, and it's what it is. It's an exhibition where they send some of their most talented players. And I'm saying some because not all. Not in every single case is it a the most talented guys, but that's fine because even the guys who are going there that we want to make the argument may not belong there. And again, I'm not putting the names on the board because it doesn't matter. The guys who we would still say, well, he probably doesn't belong there, still pretty darn good hockey players and capable of going out there and putting on a good show. The NHL seems to be along the lines of naming guys who are bigger names, right? There are some exceptions to that where a player having an excellent season maybe has gotten that instead of the bigger name. But in general, it's about the big names. It's about seeing guys out there and having fun. It's about the skills competition. I think the skills competition has kind of usurped the game itself. I'm more interested in who wins the skills competition, although I've argued the skills competition's broken on some level too, that there should be competitions team by team, and then the winner for each team goes to that all-star tournament or the all-star skills competition. The problem with that being simple. Let's say you had a accurate shooter in Vancouver, and the one that wins the accurate shooter is Travis Dermott. The accurate shooter out of Edmonton is, I don't know, Evan Bouchard. You end up with guys at the All-Star game who aren't big stars in the game, right? So you end up with guys who are pretty good and really good at the accurate shooting, but they're not big stars. And so it's not a huge draw. And so that's where that falls apart too. Because I would love to see it where it's, league wide and you have this whole elimination set up and this is the most accurate shooter in the game and this is the hardest shooter in the game and this is the guy who's the best at speed in the game. And it really does kind of unravel very quickly. I don't think that we're ever going to have an all-star game that fans are 100% happy with because we grow up. And as adults, we're like, all right, we want to see this clash. Well, that clash happens in the playoffs. Really, the All-Star game that we're looking for is the Stanley Cup Final, where you have what should be two star-studded teams going against each other for the right to call themselves the champions. So you're not going to get an All-Star experience that in any way resembles that. So again, I just kind of see it as that's my weekend off. That's my period of time where I could just relax. Videos posted to the channel. It can be about almost anything at that point. And yeah, I can't get too worked up anymore. There have been times where I've been like, I can't believe this guy got overlooked. And now it's, well, he gets a weekend off, so that's fine. Yeah, I can't be too upset. He's probably got a lot of bumps and bruises from the schedule that's going on. And remember, January's schedule is pretty brutal for some of these teams. Isn't it? Seattle's playing 16 games in 25 days or something like that. January's pretty rough. So I would imagine there are players that at the end of this month, when that All-Star game break sets in, that fans are going to be like, I can't believe you aren't allowed to go to the All-Star game and you belong there rather than that guy or this guy. And they're thinking, yeah, I'm going to be really upset while I have a few days to relax with my family and just chill out and not have to worry about all the NHL stuff just for a few days. It's a refuel. And I know that guys at the All-Star break aren't going to be worried about that either. It's a bit of a refuel for them, but it's a different experience. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And what could we do to make this work? Like, what could we do to make it so that you still have the All-Star game that all the kids love and all 32 teams are represented, but something for maybe for the hardcore hockey fans so that, for instance, like I would have some kind of a stake where I'm like, actually, I can't ignore the All-Star break this year because they're doing this really fun insert name of item here. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.